In the early 1960s, the world was witnessing a wave of transformation. Newly independent nations in Africa were carving out their destinies, and global superpowers were vying for influence during the height of the Cold War. Among these transformative moments was a historic meeting between two visionary leaders, President Sylvanus Olympio of Togo and President John F. Kennedy of the United States. Sylvanus Olympio, Togo's first president, was a trailblazer, a leader determined to forge a sovereign and self-reliant nation. His commitment to economic independence and political neutrality set him apart in a world divided by East and West. On the other side of the Atlantic, John F. Kennedy, a young and dynamic leader, was reshaping America's approach to the world, emphasizing diplomacy and support for emerging nations. In March 1962, these two leaders came together in Washington, D.C. to discuss the future of U.S.-Togo relations, African sovereignty, and the shared vision of a world where nations could thrive without domination or interference. This visit was more than a diplomatic engagement, it was a meeting of ideals. For Kennedy, it was an opportunity to support a moderate, independent African state and strengthen America's presence in West Africa. For Olympio, it was a chance to secure partnerships that would empower Togo's development while maintaining its sovereignty. The moments captured during this visit reflect the optimism and determination of two leaders who believed in the power of collaboration and respect. What follows is a rare and powerful glimpse into that historic day, Sylvanus Olympio's visit to the United States and his meeting with John F. Kennedy. Let's step back in time and witness this pivotal chapter in history. This is the story of how two leaders from opposite sides of the Atlantic came together to shape a brighter future for Togo and the world.
A head of state visits America. At Washington National Airport, elaborate ceremonies herald the arrival of the President of the African Republic of Togo. His Excellency Sylvanus Olympio, Chief Executive of the West African nation, is greeted by President John F. Kennedy, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and American officials.
Mr. President, for your efforts to win independence for your country, but even more for your efforts to build a better life for your people and to play a progressive and liberal and responsible position in the development of Africa. For your strong support for the United Nations. For all these reasons, Mr. President, you are most welcome with the United States of America, and in welcoming you, we extend the hand of friendship to your people.
I hope that my visit here will enable me to understand more fully the policies of the United States, and at the same time to contribute in a small measure to explain to you the real aspiration of our country. Once more, Mr. President, I thank you most sincerely on behalf of my people and on behalf of the members of my delegation for the very warm welcome which you have extended to us. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
The White House, residence of the American president, is one of the first stops for President Olympio and his party. They confer with President Kennedy, Acting Secretary of State George W. Ball, and G. Menon Williams, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. The Togo party includes Their Excellencies Dr. Andrea Kapko, Hospice Koko, and Pauline Fritas. Another important visit, the State Department, for talks with American officials such as the Administrator of the Agency for International Development, Fowler Hamilton. Before an evening reception at the State Department, an exhibition of Togo cultural and economic achievements is shared in the company of Angier Biddle Duke, American Chief of Protocol. reception is given by Acting Secretary and Mrs. Ball. Hundreds of hands to shake, new faces to remember. At Arlington Cemetery, a wreath is placed on the tomb of the unknowns, honoring those who have died in defense of their country. A visit to the Capitol, seat of the legislative branch of the American government. The distinguished visitors take tea with members of Congress who are interested in the affairs of Africa, sharing information, each learning more of the problems of the other and working towards their solution. A reception by the Togolese government attracts a large number of officials and other leading Americans. The Togo delegation greets old friends and new friends. Important meetings continue with the Honorable Per Jacobson, Chairman of the Board and Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, and with Mr. J. Burke Knapp, Vice President of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. An early breakfast with Mr. R. Sargent Shriver, Director of the Peace Corps. It is time to leave Washington to visit other cities. At the airport, Vice President Lyndon Johnson bids farewell to the distinguished guest as he boards President Kennedy's aircraft for the flight to New York. Washington stretches below. Aboard the aircraft, quiet conversation with the Honorable Leon B. Pulata, American ambassador to Togo, before the excitement of New York. A ticker-tape parade. This is an event which America's largest city reserves for its great heroes and its most distinguished visitors. Thousands line the route along Broadway. The parade ends at City Hall, where Mayor Robert F. Wagner greets President Olympio. And points out some of the surrounding skyscrapers. The United Nations is familiar to President Olympio, for here he led his country to its place in the world body. In an office on the 38th floor, he is greeted by United Nations Acting Secretary General U Thant of Burma. Honors at Fordham, a leading American university. The Very Reverend Lawrence J. McGinley, president of the university, confers the degree of Doctor of Laws. At a New York hotel, residence of the visitors, there are meetings with representatives of many segments of American life. members of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the Honorable Nelson A. Rockefeller, Governor of the State of New York, beneath a portrait of George Washington, America's first president, Togo's first president talks with Adlai Stevenson, American ambassador to the United Nations. In the last stages of the visit, across the state of New York to Niagara Falls to see some of the wonders of America. First stop, a man-made wonder, the tremendous Niagara Power Project. Here, the Togolese see how Canada and the United States have joined to harness the waters of the St. Lawrence River to produce millions of units of electric power. A climax to the visit, a look at one of America's natural wonders, Niagara Falls. President Olympio of the Togolese Republic has visited the United States. His journey has reaffirmed and strengthened the ties of warm friendship and mutual understanding between the two nations.